Welcome to Bible for Modern Minds podcast.
And I think deeply challenging piece of source material in front of us today. It's the first-hand testimony of a woman we now know as Maria. Her story is, well, it's rooted in the rigid structures of a traditional family in Pakistan, a life that was all about duty and silence.
And that life gets completely torn apart, just violently ripped apart by two things: a desperate prayer and a miracle.
That transformation is the absolute core of our deep dive today. Maria, who was originally born Isla in Gulberg, she described her world in a way that it's just so clear. She said, and I'm quoting here, tradition was law.
Right. And that law had very specific articles for women: obedience, modesty, and invisibility. These weren't suggestions, They were the entire framework for your life, for your acceptance.
So we are tracing the emotional but also the factual trajectory of her life. From Isla, this respected merchant's daughter in a heavy red wedding gown, to Maria, a refugee. Our mission here is to follow that intense personal cost, the price she paid for a single moment of radical faith.
And it's so important to get this right. We're not just summarizing a life story. We're really analyzing the collision between a very strict, very controlled cultural system and one person's undeniable experience.
Yeah.
For Maria, it meant erasing her entire former identity.
A total rejection.
The total rejection of the world she was born into.
Yeah. So let's start where she did. At the beginning of her married life, in what she herself called her gilded prison, she's 17, and she's married off to Rahim, a widower who's 32, a successful man. But her memory of his home is it's so telling. She said it was luxurious but cold.
And that coldness, it really speaks volumes, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It tells you this was a transaction. It was not a partnership in any modern sense. It was about function.
A function that was made clear to her immediately.
Immediately. By the matriarch, Fatima, her mother-in-law. She just lays it out. The quote is, "Your duty is to provide this family with an heir, nothing more."
Nothing more, wow.
Yeah. So Maria's personal worth was instantly, in her own words, reduced to a body with a function.
And that function, it kept failing in their eyes. Maria describes this just intense period of pressure, loss after loss, 3 miscarriages or stillbirths.
The emotional toll must have been immense, and with no support system to speak of, just spiritual emptiness.
And this is where that cultural context you mentioned just comes crashing down on her. A woman's worth in that world is so often measured by her ability to produce a son, an heir.
Exactly. So when she couldn't deliver, her pain wasn't seen as a tragedy to be shared. It was interpreted as her fault, as a moral failing.
The condemnation came straight from the top, from Fatima, no sympathy. Instead, she's whispering that the losses were, quote, punishment for some sin.
And that's not just cruel. It's systemic. It's a tool of control. Using shame like that it's a way to manage behavior.
It's a way to put all the burden on Maria.
It is. And it justifies Rahim's next move, which was to start openly talking about taking another wife if she didn't provide an heir.
So she's completely isolated. She even said that in this time, Allah seemed distant. Her suffering was just this silent scream.
And the whole system was designed to keep it silent.
So the stage is perfectly set for a crisis. Her 4th pregnancy becomes her last chance. She makes it to the 8th month, just clinging to this hope that this child, hopefully a boy, would finally justify her place in that house.
The delivery at Alina Hospital, This is the brutal turning point. 14 hours of labor and then silence. The silence where a cry should be. That's the first sign that something is terribly wrong.
You got a girl,
Yeah.
and then the diagnosis from the doctor, Dr. Hamid.
Yes, and he's direct. Congenital blindness. He even calls it an irreversible mal for the optic nerves.
Irreversible, so no hope given. And the family's reaction, it's immediate. It defines everything that comes after.
It does. Rahim the father, his hope for an heir is shattered, and it turns instantly to fury. He just keeps repeating the word blind like it's a curse, shouting at her, "This is a punishment. This is your fault."
An immediate assignment of blame.
But I'd say the more culturally significant reaction is from Fatima, the mother-in-law. She clutches her chest, and she just keeps saying, "A daughter and a disabled one, what will people say?"
Okay, what will people say? Let's pause on that. You mentioned Izzat earlier. Can you explain how this child's condition threatens the family's honor?
Yeah, Izzat is everything. It's like the social currency of your family's status, its respectability. A disabled daughter, in that context, is seen as a huge liability. She requires resources. She can't easily be married off to a powerful family. And it reflects to them, poorly on the entire bloodline.
So the child wasn't a source of sadness, she was a threat.
A threat to their social standing, a source of immense shame.
And because of that shame, Maria and her new baby were immediately pushed aside. They were put in the smallest room in the back of the house. She called it being treated like a shameful secret to be hidden.
They were basically exiled inside their own home.
And yet, in all that darkness, Maria does something incredible. She names the baby Nor.
Which means light in Urdu.
Light. It's this act of defiance almost. Despite all the rejection, she felt this immediate maternal bond. She saw the baby as a miracle to me, not as a source of shame. That act of naming her light, that's the beginning of her internal shift, isn't it?
Absolutely. She's starting to define her own reality outside of her family's judgment. And that shift is what opens her up to the first crack in that system of control around her.
And the person who brings that crack of light is Sarah, the night nurse. Maria just noted how different she was. She had this genuine, unforgiving sweetness, a sense of peace. And eventually, Sarah confides in her, "I'm Christian."
Which was, a radical and frankly dangerous thing for Sarah to do. But she offers Maria a revolutionary idea that completely contradicts Fatima's shaming. She says God does not punish the innocent. Trials come so that his glory may be manifested.
It completely reframes her suffering. It's no longer a mark of her guilt. It's a potential opportunity for something else.
A revelation.
And Maria was ready to hear it. The formal Islamic prayers she knew, they felt heavy. They just reinforced this idea of a distant, punishing God. So she starts shifting. She moves toward these simple, personal pleas to Jesus.
This is asking questions.
Yeah, like, if you really exist, show me, help me understand why she was born this way. And she says when she prayed like that, a gentle peace would enter the room.
And that's the huge shift. She's moving from a religion based on ritual obligation, which had failed her, to a personal appeal for grace, which offered her some hope.
Yeah.
It was deeply subversive.
The crisis finally comes to a head one night in April. Nor, the baby, has been crying for 4 straight hours, nonstop. Rahim starts banging on the wall, screaming, "Shut that child up."
Maria describes being at the edge of an abyss. She had no security, no hope, and she was about to be replaced. She had nothing left to lose.
And it's in that moment of total desperation, that she makes the choice that changes her entire life. She kneels by the crib, she places her hands on Nor's eyes.
And she says the words Sarah taught her, a direct challenge.
"Jesus, if you are truly the Son of God, if you have the power to heal, please let my daughter see."
And what's so fascinating is that this wasn't a quiet little prayer. This was it. This was the final, audacious test of a faith she was just discovering.
And then it happened. She felt what she called an invisible presence. The baby's crying started to lessen, and then slowly, and her description is so vivid, like a flower opening at sunrise, Nor's eyelids moved.
Her eyes fluttered open.
And they were brown, alive, bright, full of light. And Maria checks immediately. She moves her hand in front of the baby's face, and Nor's eyes track the movement.
She could see.
She could see. The experience was now a verifiable fact. And that miracle, it wasn't just physical healing for, nor was it. It was spiritual validation for Maria.
It was irrefutable proof. Her forbidden prayer had been answered, and at that moment, going back to her old life, it became impossible.
But that peace didn't last. The secret got out. And it wasn't Maria who told it. It was Rahim's sister, Yasmin. She comes to visit, waves her hand in front of the blind baby's face just to, to test her.
And the baby's eyes follow her hand. And this secret just explodes.
Their reaction wasn't joy, it was fear.
Fear and superstition. Yasmin and Fatima, they couldn't process it within their worldview. Their immediate thought was black magic, perhaps, or something forbidden.
And when they confront Maria, asking if she was praying to false gods, her silence is her confession.
That's all they need. Yasmin starts shouting the accusation, "Christianity! You've been praying to Jesus like the infidels."
And that word apostasy, that's the trigger for everything that follows.
Right. The charge of apostasy, of leaving Islam, it's not just a theological issue. In that environment, it can be a social death sentence. So the family mobilizes. The house fills up with uncles, conservative neighbors.
It becomes a tribunal. Rahim's older brother, Tariq, he's the one who pronounces the verdict. He calls the healing Christian witchcraft.
The irony is just staggering. They see the cure as a demonic trap. They try to purify the child, splashing her with holy water, reciting verses, as if they're trying to undo the miracle.
And it all ends with Rahim delivering the ultimatum. Renounce this foreign religion, return to Islam with total submission, or you will leave this house tonight alone.
But there was a condition. One more twist of the knife.
The cruelest blow of all. The child, Noor, had to stay, to be raised in the true faith away from her apostate mother.
The child was property of the family's honor, of their faith. The miracle itself was irrelevant. And this really shows you what was at stake for them. It wasn't about the child's well-being. It was about dogma and status.
But Maria, having seen what she saw, she couldn't deny it.
How could she?
She looked at her daughter, at those shining eyes that were the proof of her choice, and she refused. Her words were simple. I won't deny what I saw. And she walked out with Noor in her arms, leaving everything, her wealth, her security, her entire identity. The slam of the door, she said, was the end of the 22 years I'd lived there.
That door slam was also a rebirth. She had just voluntarily detonated her own safety net.
Sarah was there for her. She helped them find refuge at a Christian shelter. And there, she chose a new name for herself. She went from Isla to Maria.
In honor of Miriam, the sister of Moses.
Yeah.
A protector, a celebrator of liberation.
She literally adopts an identity that mirrors her new role. And this is so key. She's moving from a passive identity, Isla, defined by others, to an active one, Maria, defined by her own faith and her own agency.
And she finds a new family there, not one of blood, but of shared experience. Other women who had been rejected for similar reasons.
Life is hard now. She works a grueling job in a textile factory to support Nora. The threats are still real. Anonymous notes saying things like, gamblers like you don't deserve to live. The price of freedom is constant vigilance.
But she got this final piece of emotional closure. She learned Rahim had remarried just 3 months after she left, to an 18-year-old who was already pregnant.
And that news brought her relief, not pain.
Right. It just confirmed how transactional her position had always been, how easily she was replaced. It proved she had lost nothing of real value.
Maria's own final reflection really sums up the incredible trade she made in her life. She said she lost her family and her security, yes, but she gained, and this is her quote, the freedom to be who I am, the joy of seeing my daughter healed, and the peace of knowing the true God.
And Nora grew up healthy, sighted, and loved. Her eyes are a daily reminder of the power of a prayer of faith.
So what does this all mean? When you boil it down, Maria's journey is this radical illustration of what happens when a deep personal conviction clashes with established public doctrine.
It really is. She chose verifiable experience, the simple reality of her daughter being able to see over inherited truth, the tradition that had dictated her entire existence. It shows the immense power of an aha moment.
Especially one that's physical and undeniable. For her, 22 years of rigid tradition just dissolved in the face of 2 bright, open eyes.
And her story starts with physical blindness, but it ends with her daughter's sight. So for you, the listener, the ultimate deep dive question here isn't just about what Noor could finally see, it's about what Maria gained the clarity to see.
Which was what?
I love that. In her words, doesn't depend on anything, not on function, not on tradition, not on obedience. So the question for you to take away is this. What is the single conviction in your own life? Moral, personal, professional, that you'd be willing to sacrifice everything, family, security, your very identity, to protect?